The started off with the Accordion Open Meetings Act is posted over there. Is there any comments by the public?
Good evening. My name is Melissa Norgard. My husband and I own and operate Boss City Brewing at 1200 Jackson Street. We've been at that location for about 18 months, and I just wanted to come today to share a concern about a recent reclassification for our power bill from small phase 3 power to large demand power. We were reclassified, and this change was triggered because we exceeded the 50 kilowatt threshold by 0.8 kilowatts. The overage occurred during a 10-day period, the only time we've ever exceeded it over the course of the 18 months we've been at that location. The city does send out a letter in the mail, but they don't offer any notification that you've gone over besides the letter, and there's no opportunity to correct the issue before we got reclassified. This is going to affect my monthly power bill by almost double, and that's just an estimate. We're now going to be required to stay on large demand power for the remainder of this fiscal year and the entire next fiscal year. So that's going to be about 18 more months. The unexpected cost increase is going to put a strain on our operations as a small local business. I also have to believe that I'm probably not the only business that has encountered this. And had we been notified, we likely could have made an adjustment and potentially avoided future overages. I just want to say that small businesses probably don't have any way of knowing that they've crossed the threshold until it's too late. I'm encouraging the council and the electric department to potentially look at a system to notify businesses when they approach or exceed the threshold. The policy will not promote business growth, and I know that the city is in support of that. So like I said, what I'm asking for is for you to consider implementing some kind of a notification system, allowing for a one-time grace period for businesses who exceed that threshold one time, and then notifying them that they did exceed the 50 kilowatts per hour, and then revisit the ordinance so it's not such a long period of time to be on the large demand power. That was only a 10-day period, and we're already now significantly back under the 50 kilowatts per hour. The electric department did send somebody over. He was very helpful in explaining it to me. I just want to say that I appreciate your time and consideration for our matter, and we'll continue thriving. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Deanna Volkmer, and I'm here representing Living Memorial Gardens. They are celebrating their 40th year, and it's all done by volunteers, with the exception of places like Doc Thompson Foundation, who has helped us since 1999 with all of our flowers and our tools. So that's been a great help to us. Well, anyway, on Friday, August 1st, we are going to have a celebration, and we would like all of you to attend. I believe most of you have received an invitation. Good job. So the only thing that we would say is if you're interested, please RSVP. And the RSVP is on the bottom of the invitation. And then we have a deadline of kind of like Friday because we have to account for everyone that's going to be there. So if you could try to do that, we'd sure appreciate that. One addition is with the 40th anniversary, we have here our president of the Living Memorial Gardens, and she wants to talk about what's happening on Saturday, just so you know what's happening in the park. Pauline Langdon.
Hi, everybody. First of all, a million thanks to the city for all the support they've given the gardens. I have recently come in contact with scrapbooks that have been done since the beginning, and the city is constantly in there, and it continues to be that way, and we're so appreciative. We say it's 40th anniversary. We don't know when we started. It could be 53, it could have been in 63, it could have been in 65, we're not sure. We got our 501c3 a different year, so we're calling it a 40th celebration, and you can add as many numbers to that as you want. But anyway, we just thought it was time that we let people know exactly what we're doing. Besides the invitation-only Friday night, we're having a champagne punch event, of which, of course, you're all invited. Then Saturday, of course, you're all invited, too, and if you'd like to help, we'd love to. We're having a Kids' Day, and we're going to have face painting. I'll probably never be able to do this right. A bounce house where they're going to make dirty cup desserts, painted bricks. We pulled up all of our, or a lot of our, well, no, actually all of our brick walkways, and $30,000 later, we have sidewalks, and we thought that was worth a ribbon cutting. So we're going to have a ribbon cutting, and then the bricks that we pulled up, the kids are going to be able to decorate and take home. Anyway, it's going to be going from 9 to 1, and the whole county is invited. We even did some stuff in Chapel, and we put some advertisements in Bridgeport and Peace, Colorado, so it's bigger than just the county. But anyway, we wanted to let you know, and to let you know where we are. And again, thank you so much for everything that you do. I can't give the Parks Department enough credit. We call them, and they're here just like that. City manager has been great. We got some other projects we're looking at. At the end of the summer, we're going to be putting in a new underground water system, which will be wonderful because we are manually watering right now. And if you ever walk through the gardens, you will see that that is not a small area. So I have a great suntan from here down and from here down because I'm living there. So one of the kids came up and they said, "Do you work here?" And I said, "No, I live here." And I will be really glad not to live there anymore because my yard does not look very good. But anyway, we hope to see you guys Friday. And again, thank you. And if you have kids, bring them down on Saturday. And no, we won't make you really do anything. You can just kind of hang around. So anyway, anybody have any questions? Okay,
Nope.
thank
We're
you.
looking forward to it. Thank you. Looking forward to it.
Oh, great.
Yes.
Put me
Thank
down
you.
for Friday, Colleen.
Pardon?
Put me down for Friday.
Any more? Okay. Approval of the July 8th minutes.
All motion.
Seconded.
Lee?
Kirkman,
Yes.
Coons,
Yes.
Bungard,
Yes.
Radcliffe,
Yes.
Lee.
Yes.
Historic Preservation Board appointment.
I guess that's me. Historic Preservation Board consists of 7 members, 3 of which are citizens interested in history and historic preservation of Sydney, and 4 that are real estate owners within the property located in Sydney's historic district. Members are appointed for alternate 3-year terms by the city manager and confirmed by the city council. The board is responsible for designation, preservation, protection, and enhancement of those structures representing the heritage of the city. With the resignation of Sarah Elston from Historic Preservation Board, there is an open seat. City manager, or me, seek to confirmation of Lori Wolf to be appointed the 7th member of the Historic Preservation Board. I think some of the things that Lori brings that will be very valuable. She's a member, or I think is still a current member of Chamber of Commerce. She's involved with Night of Hope, Potter Volunteer Fire Department, and she has a wealth of real estate experience, I think, which would be very helpful to the Historic Preservation Board. So I would recommend that the council appoint Lori Wolf as the 7th member. And she will, the term she's filling will expire in October of 2025, but that she will be eligible to be reappointed again after that if she wishes to try to re-up me then at that point. So anyway, appointing Lori Wolf to the Historic Preservation Board.
Is Lori here or no?
No.
Historic Preservation Board chairperson is here. She did come to the last meeting and met with the board, and I think she was very well received. Would you say so, Vicki? That she's well received? Okay, yeah.
Excellent.
I would make a motion if anyone has any questions. I'll make a motion to approve Lori
Motion
Wolf
by
for the
Radcliffe.
Historic Preservation Board.
I'll second that.
Second by Coons.
Coons,
Yes.
Bungard,
Yes.
Radcliffe.
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Kirkman.
Yes.
Thank you.
Resolution 202-50702, Class C liquor license for the Silver Dollar.
Okay,
they
the
here?
Sydney Silver Dollar and Bar and Grill is applying for a new Class C liquor license for 913 Illinois Street, and manager application for Timothy G. Backer. The Class C allows for the sale of beer, wines, and spirits on and off sale. And would you like to come forward? And state your name, please.
My name is Caitlin Michelson.
And I'm Tim Baker.
Do you have any questions
Questions?
for them?
Thanks for coming up here, yeah.
Yeah, thanks for coming up.
I think we're good.
How's the business going so far?
It's been crazy.
Yeah.
Trying to adjust from our full-time jobs to running that part-time and juggling staff and everything that we're not used to doing. It's been good, but like I said, pretty hectic, so.
I'm good with it. You brought gizzards back.
Anybody else have questions?
I don't.
Do I
So,
have a
yeah.
motion to approve resolution 20?
I will motion to approve resolution 2025-0702.
I will second that.
Bonnegar,
Yes.
Radcliffe,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Kirkman,
Yes.
Coons.
Yes.
And I will go and I will make sure I get the notification to the state. Okay?
Congratulations, guys. Yeah,
Congratulations.
congrats.
Resolution 202-50703, Airport Authority request allocation.
Gentlemen?
I'm Ron Meyer. I'm the chairman of the Sydney Airport Authority. And this is George Lapisotis. He serves as our airport manager. Takes care of all the airport maintenance and day-to-day operations, as well as running the FBO out there, which fuels aircraft and hangars aircraft and promotes the community and does all of our aircraft maintenance. So, and we're here for approval of our annual budget, which is, I think it's 216,000 or something like that.
660?
Yep.
Back. Where are we at here? Oh, flip it over. That's why we have an airport manager. Anyway, yeah, we're requesting 216,660 this year. That is actually down pretty substantially from last year because we've retired some debt, which is a good thing. And the debt we do have, so that in case you don't know, our debt is all interest-free. So we take advantage of that money as much as we can. But right now, we don't have any projects other than we have the airport, or the big 8-place hangar that we built last year, or actually finished in December of '23. And so we used government funding and no interest loan money from the state to get that project done, as well as our airport improvement money that we get from the federal government. So that project is, or that loan is being paid down by bill money as it comes available. So we've got 3 years. We've got the second year this year. The next year we'll get another chunk of that, and that all goes against that no interest loan. So we'll be reducing that fairly quickly. And other than that, the actual total request is actually about 17,000 less than what we had last year. I think that was 233. So, and there is a little bit of increase in there for the day-to-day operations, which we feel is necessary just to meet the growing needs of the airport. And we just renewed the contract with George for another 5 years. And I think Kendra's going over that contract right now.
I'm like,
With an extension of another 5 years beyond that, so. And George has been just great. He's been with us for 10 years already, so he's making another 10-year commitment, which we're all just tickled pink about, so. And other than that, we're here to answer any questions. If you got any questions of George as to what day-to-day operations are like out there, or any questions for me,
Yeah, I guess I'd love to ask George. I just don't know enough about the airport. Like, I don't know what's happening out there, or what kind of traffic you guys are seeing. Is it going up, going down? Give me the skinny on what's happening at the airport.
Yeah, I'm George Lapsotis, airport manager, born and raised in the Panhandle line, Charlotte. Came back here 10 years ago to take it over. I see growth around here. When I started 10 years ago, we were pumping about 60,000 gallons of fuel. That's between Jet A and Avgas. Now we're to above 100,000 gallons of fuel. That's crop spraying, that's military, private charter operations, transient people traveling across the country, just a mix of everything.
Medical?
Medical, we have about 1,800 landings a year. That goes up and down, you know, depending on weather and, you know, what's going on. But the landings definitely haven't declined in the last 10 years.
Okay.
Other than a little dip here or there, you know.
Gotcha.
We can serve just about any small to mid-sized jet out there.
Okay.
Last year we had over 100 hangar rentals.
Okay.
So those guys are paying to put their airplane in the hangar, then they're going to get a hotel, they're going out to eat, supporting the local economy, all that kind of stuff too. Yeah, if you got any other specific questions, I'm happy to answer them.
No, that's great. Just high level look at what's happening out there. How many employees?
Anytime.
How many employees do you have out there?
I've got 3 employees.
3 employees.
Yep.
Got it.
We've also gotten some interest from the military now is running parachute operations a couple of times a year out
Okay.
there.
That was really well attended.
That's cool.
by the way.
That was well received this last
Wow.
time, yeah. That was magnificent. Aren't they doing another one here pretty soon?
They are coming in August. They're gonna stay overnight at the airport, but they're actually jumping up in Chimney Rock.
Okay.
Like August 13th and 14th, but I can give
Gotcha.
those exact days. They're watching the weather and that kind of stuff right now, so. Yep.
All right. Cool.
Is that full capacity then for hangars and whatnot?
Yeah, we keep one hangar dedicated to transient or overnight or, you know, getting out of weather or something. We've got private T hangars for, you know, people in town that want to overnight and whatever, but we keep one hangar that's dedicated just for transient public, whatever we need to, you know, medical planes in the middle of the night, you know, de-icing services, freight, you know, whatever it is, so. And as big of an aircraft as we can fit in there, we will. It's an 80 by 100 hangar, so we can get a pretty good sized aircraft in there.
Awesome.
Of course, then we still have the aviation school out there too, that I'm sure you're all aware of.
Yep.
And they're planning on expanding to 45 students?
Yep, they're trying to grow some more students. They put up a new engine run room for safety this year. So that's a new addition onto the airport that the Airport Authority Board will have to, you know, put insurance on and that kind of stuff. And that's another reason for the increase.
Mr. Mayor? I just want to point out that the Assistant City Manager and myself did recently have an opportunity to tour WNCC's program out there, and it's quite impressive. It's really awesome what they do.
How many
You
students
guys
do they
can
have right
funnel a
now?
lot of students through there.
How many students do they have right out there
Right now, 18, but this August they're going to bring a whole nother class. Last year they only ran one class. And so I don't know the total enrollment for this next year, but it's going to be somewhere between 35 and 45. So it's the only specific aviation maintenance school in the state of Nebraska. Now, Duncan is trying to make a program kind of like that, and they're working off of it, but it's the only aviation maintenance school in Nebraska. So.
And it's all approved through the FAA, so they meet FAA requirements.
Any more questions? Do I have a motion to pass resolution 202-50703?
I'll motion that.
Second.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Talk to you, sir.
Radcliffe,
Yes.
Probably first
Lee?
part of next week.
Yes.
Kirkman,
Yes.
Coons,
Yes.
Longcor.
Yes. Resolution 202-50704, updating the fastest smile signatures of the mayor.
Okay, we need to update the facsimiles with the local banks due to the departure of Mayor Brad Sherman and the incoming Mayor Brendan Bodegard. And this is just a typical thing that we do, so we can have Brandon sign checks and that, and he doesn't have to be available at all times. So we just need to get a motion to
Okay.
approve that.
Motion,
Yeah, I'll motion.
I'll second.
Lee,
Yes.
Kirkman,
Yes.
Coons,
Yes.
Sondergaard,
yes.
Radcliffe.
Yes.
Resolution 202-50705, Oktoberfest Parade to use Illinois Street.
Hi, everyone. I'm Christine Radke with the Sydney Oktoberfest.
And I'm Michelle Billups,
Yeah,
taking it over for
Yeah,
her.
she's gonna, I'm passing the reins over. So all we're doing here is just wanting to see if we could get the resolution passed so we can get it motioned, get Lori going to pass it for us using Illinois Street for the parade. Everything's the same.
The detour.
Nothing's changing.
Nothing's.
What year is this?
51.
51?
51. Easy peasy.
I was just say, this is the easiest one all year long. I'll motion that we
Thanks.
pass the, so we can use the street for the Oktoberfest
Yeah,
parade.
same
Yeah.
thing. The detour is all the same, closing off is all the same, time's all the same, nothing ever changes
Okay.
with it anyways yet. But I won't be here. She'll be doing it. Michelle will be, so
Thanks for
I'm done.
stepping up.
Handing the reins over.
I don't mess it up.
She won't mess it up. It'll all go smooth.
Excellent.
Radcliffe with the first, or motion? Who's second?
I'll second it.
Kirkman,
Yes.
Coons,
Yes.
Sondergaard,
Yes.
Radcliffe.
Yes.
Lee.
Yes.
Thank you, guys.
You're welcome.
Electrical rate study presentation ordinance 1876.
What's that?
Just give me John.
Oh,
Here's
do you need the clicker?
oh, outstanding.
I'll just let you introduce
All right, just
yourself.
let me go. All right.
Already got up there.
He's so good.
Okay, Mayor, members of the council, my name is John Kraske. I've been a consultant in the electric utility industry for a number of years. I've probably done over 100 rate studies in the last 25 years in Nebraska. So first of all, I want to thank you all for hiring me to do this work for you. Appreciate the opportunity. Plan to go through I'm just going to go through some of the high-level points from the report. I've learned in my career it's not a good idea just to read a report and go through every single number because usually only the accountants are interested in that. So quick overview of my presentation. There we go. Introduction, talk about projected financial results as they relate to the electric system cost of service, which is basis for rate design. Talk about how your rates compare to neighboring utilities. I think that's a good story to tell, even with these rate changes, and then talk about my recommendations for you. Probably the most important purpose of doing a rate study is to look at the financial performance of the utility and make sure that that performance will continue to be solid going forward. Try to look at rate stability, develop rates that are fair, reasonable, non-discriminatory. That's a legal requirement in Nebraska. It means I can't charge Mr. Radcliffe a different rate than I charge Mr. Coons just because Mr. Radcliffe used to be my cousin. Or a cousin-in-law. So, but generally, though, within a residential class, you can't charge a different rate unless there's a reason. For example, all electric. You have a different rate for those customers. But when we design rates, we got to make sure that you collect enough money, try to develop rates that are competitive with your neighbors, and most importantly, then reflect the cost of service so that each customer is paying their fair share of the cost. Now, I do my projected financial results a little different than what your accountant, what your auditor would do. First of all, you'll note that I'm looking at fiscal year 25. That is not your budget and it's not your actuals. It's a hybrid of the two, and it incorporates full year changes, known changes that have occurred on your electric system, and assumes that they had occurred for the full year. The most significant change like that would be the mean raising their rates about 10% as of April 1st. So I incorporated a full year of rate change for that when I did that projection.
Over time, I'm anticipating that your costs will increase, inflation for employees, salaries, wages, materials. But more significantly, MEAN is anticipating some future rate increases over the next few years. I know that you have made a recent change in your MEAN contract, but that is still, their costs and their rates are still a pretty significant factor in your costs going forward based on that contract negotiation. Is looking by fiscal year 2030, I'm anticipating a need for a rate increase of about 29%. One other factor I want to mention too is that number is based on what I call a cash basis number, as opposed when you look at your financial reports, it's an accrual basis number based on government accounting standards board, generally accepted accounting principles. This is more of a, hey, money in, money out, making sure that you have enough money to pay your operating costs, things like MEAN costs, your purchase power costs, but then also funding capital improvements, maybe long-term capital projects, funding those from cash flow, as opposed to borrowing the money for that. You've done a very good job of avoiding going into debt for your electric system. Your cash reserves are very healthy, but to keep those reserves healthy and to keep that going forward and avoid having to borrow funds, it's important to make sure that the money coming in matches the money that's going out. So any questions on that topic?
You touched on something where you were talking about material cost, inflation, employee costs, right, as part of, a future
Yes.
study there. Anything that you do in your consulting have anything to do with like projecting efficiency improvements, anything like that, like changes in how we do, the admin side of things?
I've done that type of work. I've looked at that for folks, but that's not typically something that I do as part of
With
this
a
rate
rate
study.
study. Okay.
I rely on the budget, the historical expenses.
Yep.
I look at your financials. I rely on the city council as the approver of the budget to make sure that the operations are efficient and that you're providing reliable service to your customers. And I mean, yes, there are things I could provide advice on, but it's not part of something I do with typically a rate study.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Did that
Yes, it did.
answer your question? Okay, very good. I basically just talked about all of these items, but two things I do want to focus on is your capital improvement plan. As you know, you just recently went through a pretty significant expenditure with the power plant. I know you have a substation project that's going into place as well. It's important to put money back into your system. I have some clients who I had a rate study I did earlier this year, and when I drove, a lot of times I'll drive through town and look at the system, and I'm looking at this, and I'm like, I wouldn't want to be under this power line during a windstorm. I wouldn't want to be in this area. There's people who their pole inspection program is just waiting for a windstorm to come through. You have a pretty reliable system. I know events like last winter or last March, no system can be completely prepared for that, but I do know that your system came through that in better shape than a lot of us surrounding utilities. So that's because you put money into the system, and I think it's important to continue to do that. And again, as I said earlier, it's important to make sure that you have the funding to do that so that you don't get into a borrow and spend cycle. I think it's incredible that you've just paid cash for the power plant and installation, and that's a credit to the way you've managed the system, but it's important to keep doing that going forward. I have another client who basically they fund all of their capital every 3 years. They issue bonds for that. And so and the kinds of capital projects they're doing isn't expanding to serve a new subdivision or expanding to serve a factory. It's just rebuilding old circuits that are 50 years old. And that's not a good way to, I mean, if you or I did that where we borrowed everything we spent at our house, every time the air conditioner went out or a air filter needed to be changed, that wouldn't be good financially. So I think you've done a very good job with that. And part of this rate change is to make sure that you can continue to do that going forward. Sorry, I'm not doing a good job with the slides here. Can't multitask. Proposed rate plan. I'm recommending 2 8% rate increases, the first of which would go into effect April 1st of 2026. second of which would, not April, October 1st, 2026. Second would go into effect October 1st of 2027. The ordinance also includes 2 additional increases the following fiscal years of 4% each in fiscal year 28, so that would be October 27, and then October of 28 for fiscal 29. I would note that the purpose of that was, we talked about, I've done this with other clients where we put a multi-year rate plan into a single ordinance. Now, if, let's say you get to 2027 and financials look good, means rates aren't going up, SPP market looks good and saving you money, all those types of things. If those things happen, there's nothing stopping you from saying, as a city council, to pass a new resolution and just say, hey, we're going to keep the rates where they're at in 27 or 28. So, but this at least implements the rate plan in one ordinance action and doesn't require you to every year go in and update the rate ordinance and go through the trouble of passing a new ordinance. So does that approach make sense to you? Or do you understand? I mean,
I understand it, yeah.
So we're expected to go up 29%, and according to this, we're only going up 24. Is that correct?
that's right.
So we're hoping that we'll be dipping into reserves and stuff.
You
for
may be
those.
you may be dipping into reserves toward a little bit at various points of this, but
2 years.
yeah,
Okay.
yes. And you do have healthy cash reserves. You can absorb some. I didn't want to implement a huge rate increase, and I think that my preference with rates, electric rates, is to try to keep them as stable as possible. I know you haven't raised rates since 2018, I believe. You haven't had a rate increase, I think, since 2018. You did some restructuring, but that did not increase revenue. It'd be nice to raise them a couple, 3% every couple of years to keep it up. But this approach, though, I think minimizes. It does use some reserves to keep you from having to go up 10, 12, 15% in any of these years.
If we don't go up, how long would the reserves, like, are we looking at $22,000 or something like that? $200,000 a year if we just went
I think we're budgeted
against
more
reserves and
negative than
not
that.
raising?
I'm sorry.
I think we're budgeted more a larger negative than that right now,
30, isn't that what it was?
something like that.
Yeah.
I will say that your cash reserves are about 8. I think I don't have the exact number, but I want to say they were like 7. Cash and investments were $7 or $8 million. So you can absorb some pretty some deficits. Now you want to make sure you keep a minimum cash reserve of. I like where you're at right now, so I'm not drawing too much on it. It's there to help cushion these kinds of things, but I think it helps you stabilize, provide a lower rate increase over the next couple of years, over those later years.
Keeps us from going into debt if another $3 or $4 million project needs to come up, right?
I think you could get by without going into debt, but I would probably adjust, if you had another big project like that come in and you didn't borrow the funds, that 4% might need to go up a little bit just to replenish the cash to get the reserve balance back up to where it should be. Does that answer your question?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay. When I do the cost of service, the goal is to figure out which customers cause you to incur costs, and make sure that the rates generally reflect how that looks. We want to compare that cost to what you're collecting from current rates, and that helps us determine what the rate changes need to be by rate class. A couple of observations. I already talked about the general rate increases that we're implementing. One of the key findings, and this is a common finding, is that the cost of service just to provide customer-related service right now is about $27 a month. And what that entails is, let's just say that Bert goes to all the college baseball games for a month and goes to the College World Series, and like his dad used to, and shuts his whole house down. Just empties the refrigerator, shuts the breaker off. No usage. it costs you $27 a month to provide service to him in that scenario. And that's the case with any residential customer that you serve. It costs money to have a meter sitting there. It costs money to read the meter. It costs money to have a wire running from the transformer to the meter. It costs money to have a transformer sitting there. It costs money to have a small sliver of your system that's going to serve every single customer. It costs money to send a bill, all those things. And it's become more important in recent years to make sure that that customer charge is recovering what it costs you to provide that. And here's the reason why. If you have a net metering customer come in, I'm not sure if I think you have 2 or 3 if I remember correctly. Somebody puts a solar panel on their house, spins the meter backwards, reduces their usage over the course of the year to 0. All you're collecting from that customer is the customer charge, because you're giving them back the energy they use. They're spinning the meter backwards. And it's important, I think, to make sure that that customer is paying their fair share. I mean, if they can afford to pay a solar panel, they can afford to pay for the meter, the transformer, and all those things. And I know there's a perception that you're hurting small users, or you're hurting, quote unquote, the little old lady who's living on fixed income. Well, a lot of times that person on fixed income is living in an old house that's poorly insulated, drafty, uses a lot of electricity in the wintertime. And that customer is subsidizing that customer charge. That customer is subsidizing that net metering customer, the person who put the solar panel on their house. There's that subsidization going on. And I think it's important that the cost of service be the dictator, not perception. And that's why I'm recommending some increases to your customer charge over the next few years. A higher increase for that than I am for the energy rate. So, any questions on that?
And that's just for residential, is it different?
It's different for the
okay.
other classes. The other classes, there's different disparities, but there's still a disparity between what you're charging for the customer charge and what the cost is.
Okay, so then there's a proposal in here for a commercial too, right?
Yes, general service
Is
would.
it the same rate of increase as this one that you're proposing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It's not exact, but I mean, the percentages are
Close.
similar, yeah.
Okay.
Yes. One thing I did want to mention, let's see here where we're at. Sorry about this. I know you're working with Larry Holloway. He's a consultant who's helping you out with some transitionary issues and probably will help you out with your integrated resource plan. And he asked me to look and see, hey, is there anything we could do in terms of an innovative rate design that we might put in our integrated resource plan? And first of all, I'll say your existing rate structure is reasonable. There are things that other folks are doing in the way of like time of use rates. Xcel Energy in Colorado has a rate where for 3 hours in the afternoon, the rate goes from 10 cents to 25 cents. Those are great ideas, but they have to be reflective of the cost of service. And for you, it's difficult to justify some of that for a couple of reasons. First of all, I don't know what the historical meter readings look like for those hours. So it's kind of hard to design a rate if you don't know, how much they're using during the different hours. Means rate structure really is not designed to incentivize time of use rates. They have a flat energy price and they have a flat fixed capacity charge. So even if you did shift usage from say 5 o'clock in the afternoon to night, you're not going to save a lot of money. So it was, although I looked at those, I did not think there was anything that made sense for your particular system. So here are the rate changes we're looking at. Residential is getting a little bit more of an increase than the other rate classes, and that's largely because of the customer charge I indicated earlier. A larger proportion of residential charges are of that customer charge, so the bigger increase gives them a little bit more. Let's see, small general service is getting a smaller increase as well as large general service, and that's simply based on the cost of service results. One other point I want to make on this chart is you'll note that some of the all-electric rates are going up more than the corresponding non-all-electric rate, and that's simply based on the cost of service. One thing that's happened over the last 10 to 15 years is utilities like Mean and have eliminated the differential between winter and summer rates to a large extent. Mean has completely eliminated it. So there's really no cost advantage for you to serve, to encourage use in the winter, because there's no cost savings for you to serve that load. Now, you do get some benefit. You're a summer peaking system, so you're utilizing the rest of your system more efficiently, but it's hard to justify it. And I'm suggesting that you start to, over the next few years, close that differential a little bit, and potentially down the road, based on a phase-in, eliminate that discount so that all residential customers are paying the same rate. I'll tell you the other reason I advocate for this a lot of times is you don't always know what's going on behind a meter. I mean, somebody could put in different, put in propane tank and replace their light. I don't know if they can do that in town, but there are times that what I've seen in other places is they're on an all-electric rate, and the linemen drive around down the alley and they say, why is there a gas meter and a flue on this house that is supposed to be all electric? And the meter's active, and they're using gas. So eliminating those kinds of rates gets you out of the business of regulating what's in the basement, what's behind closed doors. So I advocate, though, to try to eliminate those kinds of preferences, and in the meantime, potentially consider just doing a drive-by audit of all your all-electric customers and make sure they're still in compliance with the rate schedule. All right, here's the bottom line. For a typical customer, residential customer, it's about $8 a month increase. Works out to about $96 a year. The second rate increase in 2027 would be about $8.67 a month. I think this is a very important slide, and I think it shows you, and these are with the first year of rate change. I can also tell you that I know Wheat Belt's rates are probably going up because I'm their rate consultant. NPPD's rates are going up. Kimball and Gehring are both Mean customers, so their rates are going to have to go up to cover the Mean charges. But even right now, you're still the lowest in the summer amongst all of these folks. Even NPPD, who's one of the largest utilities in the state, you have lower rates than them.
That's with the 8% in there.
That's with the first 8% rate increase, yes. So this is what the winter rates look like. Your second lowest, NPPD, is a little bit lower than you in the wintertime, but they have purposely structured their rate to be a lot higher in the summer than the winter because of their load patterns. They have a lot of irrigation load. That's the large driver for that. Okay. I appreciate the questions as we've gone through it, but I'll just, if you have any other questions, I'm just going to go through the conclusions real quick. Rate increases of 8% the next 2 fiscal years, and again, the following 4% increases the next 2 years. All customers would see an increase under this, some higher than others. The customer charge would get a larger increase, though, than the energy charge. So we provided in the report, Appendix A, the ordinance that's under consideration. Again, that would pass those 4 rate increases. And again, at any time in the future, if you look at the financials, Tom comes to you and said, hey, I've got plenty of money. I don't know that we need this rate increase. I mean, that would be a great thing to have happen, but you could always, again, say, all right, we're going to stop the rate increases for the next couple of years. But I do think it's important to implement those rate changes, given the uncertainty with Mean and the uncertainty with Southwest Power Pool, and some of the changes coming to your electric system. And then just all the cost increases you've seen over the last 7 or 8 years in transformers and labor and filling unfilled positions. So if there aren't any other questions, I'd like to thank you for your time this evening, and thank you for working with me. I do want to thank the city staff, David and Tom, clerk's office, building folks. They did a great job of providing me information that I needed to do the study. Your records are in really good shape. I wish all my clients had as good a data as you do. So I'd be remiss if I didn't thank them for the work they did on this project as well.
There's a couple different options that we can do, correct? I mean, as far as, we can raise the rate and raise your meter fee in one case, or you can raise your meter fee to a certain amount and not raise the rate, correct? But then everybody, even though you're not using the power, is gonna be eating that fee, right?
That's correct, and that's why it's designed to do, is, to make sure the customers that aren't using energy are paying their fair share. But the proposal in here, yeah, it incorporates a customer charge increase and some energy charge changes, across all the different rate schedules, so.
If we would just do a meter rate increase, just by a little math, was about almost $7
Okay.
per customer, is that correct?
If you went all the way to the cost of service, to the $27, yeah, I mean, that,
But I noticed that a couple of the surroundings, their rates were technically lower per kilowatt. I mean, within that 600 was what we kind of based our stuff on, but their meter rates were anywhere from, 24 all the way up to 50.
right, Wheat Belts is over 50,
And
so.
so, I mean, that, we can lower rates were, but.
And I will say, it's not an apples and apples comparison between your rates and Wheat Belts. For one, I mean, they're sparser. I mean, it's their cost per mile to serve customers, when they only have maybe 2 or 3 residential customers on a mile of distribution line, whereas you have mile of distribution line, you might have 100 customers just because of the density. So it's an apples and oranges, but I understand the point you're making. I think this approach, it does phase in customer charge increases over the next 4 years and gets that customer charge closer to where it should be. I'd be reluctant to go in and raise it $7 in one fell swoop and then lower the energy rates. So I think the approach I have in the ordinance is a reasonable way to get to where you want to be, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
John, is it common when you do these rate studies the only part I'm tripping up on is this implementing all 4 of these at one fell swoop? Is it that common to do, or?
I have differing opinions among differing clients, and I'm okay with either way. I mean, the great thing with public power is you all get to decide. It isn't a public service commission like you have in Colorado. I've seen it both ways. I would say that 50 to 60% of my clients will implement a 2-year rate change. I have probably 20, I'll say probably 30% of them prefer to do it 1 year at a time. That's just the way their city council is comfortable and or their administration. I do have, I have 3 other clients that have gone out 4 years in the last 5 years that I've done these. So is it the majority of my clients? No. Is it like rare? I wouldn't say it's rare either. So, but I think, 2 years is more conventional, but 4 years is not it's not unheard of.
Okay.
So I appreciate the question though. And again, it's really, it comes down to a preference of the council and the city administration as to the direction they'd want to go. So.
Go ahead.
Brandon, did you want me to, well, unless you had another question, I don't mind.
No, you go first.
Did you want me to address the change either to or from general 3-phase service to large, and that verbiage that's in there that was brought up by some of the public tonight?
I mean,
I can talk about it if you want me to a little bit.
yeah, if you want to talk about it a little bit.
I see why it's there. If somebody goes over 50 kilowatts and you don't have something in place, they would wind up going larger. Maybe they would just be there forever, and never be able to go back. Or the other end of that coin would be, we'd have to hire extra employees to sit and switch people every other billing cycle, back and forth and back and forth. And so you got to have some kind of transition verbiage in there. Honestly, I was always thinking that it was just 1 year. It sounds like it could be up to almost 2 that you would be on high phase. So if you want me to work with city staff to see if there's a better way of wording. In fact, I don't really like the way it's worded because it does say 1 year, but then it says
But then it
two.
says, but then
Yeah,
it's just
it's
kind of,
kinda
it's just
contradicts
kind of
itself.
confusing language, because it says 1 year, but then as you read, it's pretty
Says
much 2
it's
years.
pretty
you
much
know?
2
Does
years.
Maine charge us when somebody goes over? Does Maine charge us high demand for?
I don't think they do.
They charge you
We-
just an
we just-
aggregate for the
we
whole
just buy
city.
in
They don't
bulk
look
from
at
them,
individual
right?
customers.
It's a maintenance thing, right? It's a, whether or not you have a transformer there in order to feed that business, because it's wear and tear more on that, what's outside, correct?
Yeah. So back to David, the bean, so we just found out yesterday that we are put on a 3-year demand, where the city, we're only doing 23 months. So, but they're gonna get back to us on that information. So we we're talking about that, and have it in writing, about the 3 years. But what was your question, sir?
So,
When people go
you
from-
have that unit, and all of a sudden you have that high peak like they had. Does those peaks wear on equipment that's out there, is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
And that's where we want, say, okay, it goes up, you say, okay, I'm sorry, you give your notice or whatever like that. They figure out a way to bring those stuff back, whether like another company that had already done right before. But if they continue doing that, that means we have to upgrade those transformers, upgrade wires, all that other stuff. So what we want to do is try to work with those people to bring those costs down, because it's going to cost everybody down the
Yes.
line if we don't charge them more, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, so that cost would be spread out through everybody that's feeding off that transformer, which technically wouldn't be fair if they're not using the load, but if we can work with those people that accidentally did it, I guess you can say educate the first time, but.
Do you want me to see if I can take a look at that? Because it is a really weirdly worded paragraph.
Yeah.
that-
Yeah,
So
that'll work.
David,
I'll work with staff and see what we can come up with.
I'd be happy to propose some, I mean, I
Perfect.
wasn't asked to look at that language, but I did hear the
Perfect.
situation. And
You're familiar with it? Yeah.
I've actually worked with this with some other clients, and
Okay. I
Um,
appreciate that. Thank you.
I do think there's one other change, we can talk about it offline, but
Okay.
I think there's one other thing that might help mitigate some of that as well, but we can talk about that offline,
Perfect.
so.
Perfect. Thank you. And I guess the only thing you would have to do then is take this to a second reading instead of voting on it as is, or if you're okay with that.
I've got one more question. Can we?
Sorry, go ahead.
I think I heard you say this, but I want to confirm. You said when you did this study, you considered our existing fund position or investment balance and future years CapEx of some kind, which did we give you that, I assume, or an estimate? We give you
You know,
estimates?
obviously I had your financials up through, last year. Had your budget for this year, had your actuals year to date. I have projections on like your mean costs and things. I self-develop those based on means rate projections. And the other costs, I mean, I have your capital improvement plans I rely, for the mean stuff, I rely on my projections that come from mean. For your internal costs, I rely on your capital improvement programs and the projections of projects you have to go forward.
Do we have big projects in the pipeline that you know of?
I don't know that we have any big projects other than the ongoing undergrounding is the only one I'm aware of right now after the power plant is completed. But we do, if you remember right, we did schedule for a couple of equipment purchase for a bucket truck that you have to buy 4 years in advance. So that will be coming at some point. But that's not improvement, that's equipment. So.
Is that all the questions? Do I have a motion for ordinance 1876?
To designate.
Designate, yeah.
All motion.
Oh, this will be going into a second read, right?
No, this is just to designate the ordinance.
Ordinance, yeah.
The only way it wouldn't go into 3 readings is if somebody votes, if you vote to waive it.
Okay.
Is there a second?
Yeah, it has to be designated.
Dated.
Oh, then I'll do that then.
Lee and Kirkman, or Kirkman and Lee.
Coons,
Yes.
Sondergaard,
Yes.
Redcliffe,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Kirkman.
Yes.
A motion to waive the three readings.
Needs to be read by title.
Oh, sorry. Clerk, can you read the title?
An ordinance of the City of Sidney, Nebraska relating to electrical rates, effective date of rates, amending sections 1048.04, 1048.05, 1048.06, 1048.065, 1048.11, and 1048.13 of the codified ordinances of the City of Sidney, Nebraska, and providing for publication.
Okay, is there a motion to waive the three readings?
Yeah, we don't want to do this.
Yeah.
No,
So-
okay.
Yeah.
So then it moves on.
On to number 10, agreement between the City of Sidney, Cheyenne County, Dual County, and the Cheyenne County Communication Center for dispatch services.
Hi, I'm Heidi Gillespie. I'm the director for the Cheyenne County Emergency Communications Center here in Sidney. I have been asked to come to tonight's meeting to present the update that's been made to the Cheyenne County Emergency Communications Center interlocal agreement by the authority board that governs the comm center, and to ask for this council to approve that change and sign off on the update. This agreement was due for a renewal this year, so the authority board reviewed the existing document in April and voted at that time to change Dual County's representation on the authority board from ex officio to a voting member. The Dual County Sheriff has been designated to serve as the Dual County representative on the board. And it's the same designee as before, it's just changed to reflect the status from ex officio to a voting member. Last week, the Dual County Commissioners signed off on this agreement. August 4th is the next Cheyenne County Commissioners meeting, when they will be considering signing off on it as well. And then the bylaws for the Communication Center were amended to reflect that change as well. And I believe that was signed by you already. So that's pretty much all I have, unless you have any questions. It's pretty straightforward. We're just changing one member from ex officio to a voting member.
There were a few clerical things we cleaned up, and
A little bit of grammar that was
Yeah.
driving me crazy, yeah.
and we added 3 signature pages so that you don't have to
One
keep dragging it
per
around from board to
entity.
board to board. Everybody can just do their own signature page.
Yeah.
Is there any questions? Do I have a motion to pass the agreement?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Coons, second by Lee.
Sondergaard,
Yes.
Redcliffe,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Kirkman,
Yes.
Coons.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Pad Construction Administrator, Brandy.
Hello, Council. Brandy Stone, Economic Development. This looks like we've been here before, but I promise it's different. City of Sidney has been utilizing PAD to serve as the grant administrator for Downtown Revitalization Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG. The agreement continues to formalize PAD's role and ensures compliance with state requirements for administration of CDBG funds. This part is for construction. The last time we signed, it was for general administration. So they have to separate the two, and they each have to have their own spot on your agenda at some point for agreement. So similar agreement that we've already done with PAD, but this one's just for the construction portion. And if you look at the numbers, they were requesting their first drawdown of $2,450 in construction management work and $20,405,000 or $405 in general administration work. So they'll have another drawdown that you'll see come before you, but the agreement, this is a one-time thing for construction management. So I'm recommending that you approve the agreement for PAD to do construction management for the city of Sidney, for CDBG that we've got for downtown revitalization, and then also approve their first drawdown of a total of $22,855. Like I said, another one to come in the future.
Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind, I think we actually had applied for and received this grant, maybe even before Brandy was
Yeah,
in
it
this
was
position.
before
So I can give you a little bit of history. The grant actually was applied for not by a city employee, but by the chairperson of the Historic Preservation Board at the time. And they did that so they could expand what they already do. You understand, like, they use their LB 840 money to do like signage and some small facade enhancements. I think Alex has used some of those fundings. What they applied for this grant for is so they could start doing some larger projects on those buildings. And so they were the ones that applied for it. And the chairperson is not a city employee, but they were a volunteer. The CDGB funds, the way the state puts these grants together is the way it is understanding is there's $400,000 to be spent on the buildings, right? And then the $35,000 is for grant administration, which is what Brandy's talking about. The reason they do that is in these grants, every single business that gets money from this grant, every building or historic downtown building has to go through a phase one, at least a phase one, and in some cases a phase two environmental, and those can be costly. And so that's why the state had built in an administrative fee for this. Now, we're fortunate, I think, that PAD has the ability to do this. If not, we would have had to go to like a MC Schaff or some sort of engineering firm to do that, and that would be a lot more than what PAD would be charging us to do that. So I just wanted to kind of line up why we have them, and I think some of these conversations happened maybe before Brandy was here. So
When I got here, I got CDBG administratively certified, so I could administer CDBG funding for us now, but I wasn't around when this came around. And there are a couple things that they kind of make you go through PAD to do anyway, so they being the state.
yeah, we wouldn't be able to do the environmental studies or anything like that.
So this is more for the environmental, and it's paid for by those grants?
The grant funding, yeah.
Okay, so not out of a,
Yeah, so pointing out that 2,400-ish in, 2,450 in construction management, that's only what they've done so far, which is why you're not seeing a drawdown for the entirety of the 35,000 right now. They'll have to make more visits to Sydney. I can do some of the work for them, so they don't have to come here for every little thing, but there are some things that David Wilanko, which is their grant administrator, has to come here and do himself.
so these will help bigger projects to help use up, because if we don't use that money, it's gone, right?
Right.
Correct, so if we don't use it on big projects, we could just be saying goodbye to it, somebody else.
Well, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be on big projects, but we have the 400,000 to spend, and we've taken a little bit off of that with some of the projects, which is coming up in the next agenda item too on a couple of those projects that are going on. But we have until the spring to spend that funding, and you do have a one-time request to extend it. So, but we can't talk about that until roughly February with the state. They won't even talk about an extension until we get there and see what we've spent.
Do I have a motion to, or is there, I guess there's any more questions?
You see the need for this then? I'm guessing.
Yes, yeah, they're already administrated, like, there's always road bumps, especially because technically PAD is a middleman. I'm a middleman too. So nothing's ever completely smooth sailing, but they're already administering the grant. Yes, I do see the need for it. David's put in a lot of work, and I'll just keep working with him when he asks me for something.
I'd make a motion that
Motion
we
by-
pass the
Second.
PAD construction administrator agreement.
Second by Kirkman.
Radcliffe?
Yes.
Lee?
Yes.
Kirkman?
Yes.
Coons?
Yes.
Sondergaard?
Yes. Downtown revitalization reimbursements, Fox Theater and Price Cream.
Okay, so you've seen this once before already with Spring Creek Cleaners. As they get the work done, they can submit for reimbursements. It has to keep happening until your CDBG funding is done. You have two businesses currently who are asking for a drawdown, one being Fox Theater, and someone did point out a typo error on my part. My bad. I crossed my eyes when I was looking at this. But Fox Theater is actually going for a digital marquee, so that's their project. And then you've got Price Cream, who's working on some facade enhancement and internal code violation work. So they worked really hard to get all that paperwork through. It was not an easy struggle to go through for Price Cream because internal code violations aren't easy to work through with the state. So they have persevered and they're pushing through for their first drawdown. So financial implications for this with the 75 reimbursement that DTR Downtown Revitalization covers. The payment to Fox Theater is at $25,965.58, and the payment to Price Cream will be $7,216.21. Remembering that those are the only the first drawdowns. And then I'm recommending that we do the first drawdowns to each business.
And both these projects are already done?
They're still in the works, but as some work gets done, they can do this in waves and request multiple. But if it's being requested now, that work is done. So they have to turn in receipts to PAD to request any kind of drawdown.
This is why we keep having to come back to you guys for these, because if not, then the business has to spend all that money up front before we do this. So it's, sorry that we have to keep bringing this back, but it makes it a little easier for the
It's a reimbursement
business, yeah.
process. So they're spending some, they'll get reimbursed, they'll spend more, and it just keeps going till the project is done. But essentially, the business is still responsible for 25% of the project under CDBG. But the Historic Preservation Board recently passed that they can request facade enhancement funds to help reduce the 25% that they're responsible for. Comes down to, if they use both facade enhancement and CDBG, they could only have to pay 25% of 25%. So trying to help them get these projects done.
Is there a motion to pass the downtown revitalization?
I'll make a motion.
Second. Nope. You.
Motion by Coons and second by Ratcliffe.
Lee,
Yes.
Kirkman,
Yes.
Coons,
Yes.
Sondergaard,
Yes.
Radcliffe.
Yes.
Thank you.
Pass 5-0. Yeah, Cheyenne County Chamber Quarterly Report.
You're a trooper for hanging in the whole way.
Well, you haven't put me to sleep yet, David, so that's good. Hello, Council. Joe McCarn with Cheyenne County Chamber. So you have the written report in front of you. As you can see, the Chamber has done a lot in the second quarter of 2025. 28,000, a little over 28,000 contacts that I personally made. Website, 195,000 impressions on our website. So our website's getting a lot of traffic. Two of those pages that were big, the biggest one was our job postings, almost 11,000 impressions for our job posting site. So there are a lot of jobs being seen on our site. I have no way of tracking who's applied for jobs through our site, but at least we know people are seeing the available jobs. Available properties, a little over 4,000. A little over 4,000. I can't talk right, David. Impressions on that site. So again, people are seeing those available commercial properties and knowing what's available in Cheyenne County. I find it really interesting to know that out of the 195,000 website impressions, the top one, the top search that people are doing and see our site is they're looking for the hospital. So people that are looking for the hospital see the Cheyenne County Chamber's website. Gehrig Stitt is the second on the list, and then Legacy Natural Gas is the third. They're a gas company in Potter.
Okay.
They service the Potter area. Yeah. So those three, it's fun to watch that the Chamber's website is not just servicing the Chamber, but it's doing what it's supposed to, and it's helping people find our local businesses. So that's a lot of the beauty of a Chamber's website, and it's why Google actually gives us better placement on Google search engines is because that's what we do, is we help people find the local businesses. So 617 people in our different events through the quarter. And as you can see, there was a lot of different events. I don't want to read through every one of those because they've already happened, but you can see there was a lot of events that the chamber supported or sponsored during the first or the second quarter. Upcoming events that the chamber has going, the Small Business Social already happened. The Sweet Ice Ribbon Cutting happened last week. We have Nonprofit Fair, July 29th, which is actually not just a chamber event, but there's a lot of organizations throughout the county that are involved with that. And so that's going to be a big event. 34 different nonprofits are enrolled in that. And so we're wanting the public to come and visit those nonprofits, learn more about those nonprofits. You know, there's really over 100 nonprofits in Cheyenne County. It's crazy, the numbers. 34 of those nonprofits are going to be at the Elks on the 29th from 5 to 7:30 so that people can come and learn more about them, learn what those organizations do for us, and even more importantly, learn what we can do for those organizations. So that's a very important event, and I look forward to seeing 1,000 people at the Elks that night. Is that a good goal, Rob?
Sure.
Just
that would be awesome. Not all at one time. And then, of course, Living Memorial Gardens already talked about their event on August 2nd. Really looking forward to their 40th anniversary. That's going to be amazing. We're going to do a ribbon cutting at noon that day, at 9:30 that morning for them. And just really enjoy all the, I won't get my face painted, but we'll have a lot of, they will have a lot of activities that day. Viero has been in Sydney now for 20 years, and so they are doing their anniversary on August 7th. And then August 21st, Sydney Federal is going to celebrate their new owners and new management. And that will be a pretty big event for them. They have a lot of activities planned, including the radio station going to be there and a ton of other stuff. They're trying to figure out how to make room inside that bank to fit everybody that they're expecting for that event. So, and then September 18th, the Winners is having a social hour. And then August 28th, I think it is. Sorry, I didn't write down this because I just found out this morning. We're going to be doing a social hour in Gurley at Outlaws. So a lot of different things going on with the chamber. And as you know, most of the time, I don't even know until 2 or 3 weeks in advance when something's going to happen because that's when the businesses decide they want to do it. So especially with ribbon cuttings and that sort of thing, I've got probably 6 or 7 other businesses that are talking about ribbon cutting events in the next quarter, in the next few months. So a lot of things going on. We did have 10 new members in the first quarter, Women in Ag, Modern Arboriculture, First Choice Business Brokers, Nebraska Realty, Integrated Health and Wellness, Sydney Girls Club Softball, Federal Crop Agency, Shelter Insurance, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Nebraska, and most recently the Silver Dollar. So it's exciting to see the new members. It's exciting to see that the chamber is continuing to empower local businesses and help to grow our community. So, any questions?
Sounds like you guys are having a good time.
Jeremy's got a question, I'm sure.
I didn't know the chamber existed. No, I'm just
You know, I'm surprised with how many people tell me they don't know where the chamber's located. It's pretty easy to find. It's right on Illinois, so it's hard to miss. But there's a lot of folks that grew up here. That chamber's been there since '86, and people don't know where it's at. 740 Illinois, for anybody who wants to know.
So when you say total contacts, you're talking about just touches, like information going out, right? For the most part.
Yes, information going out and personal visits with businesses, with business owners. So yeah, all of the above. Touches is a good word.
Yeah. I mean, just approximately how many of those are emails? The 28.
Probably 2/3 of them.
2/3. Okay. That's it. That's all I got for you, Joe.
Questions? Thank you, Joe.
Yep, thank you, guys.
City managers report.
I just had a couple things. I wanted to thank WNCC, and I think there's a member of E3 here tonight, for helping host the Fiserv job fair. It was very successful. I believe, the last I heard, they had 32 attendees and 18 job offers. So it's good to see businesses from the east side of the state wanting to come here and hire our people. That's kind of cool. You already talked about Living Memorial Gardens, so August 5th is Casa National Night Out at the Aquatic Center, so they'll be barbecuing and doing some other things there. That'll be a great event to create positive interactions with the public and law enforcement agencies. There's always a lot of fun. You're bringing our train again? Bringing a train again? No, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah,
We'll see.
Adam told me I'm bringing it.
So you are? Okay, awesome. Kids loved that last year. So that's August 5th from 6 to 8 p.m. And then, of course, August 8th at 5:30 p.m. in Legion Park will be Night of Hope. So just a few things coming up. And, of course, again, the Living Memorial Gardens 40-year anniversary, so that's pretty awesome. That's all I had for now.
Is there a dunk tank at the Casa deal?
They did not ask me to do it, so I'm like, not bringing that.
I'll talk to her tomorrow.
Is that, oh, there it is. Okay. There it is.
I already know what you're thinking. Are you
Is my husband in it?
Lori?
Nothing.
Sam? Brandy?
Two things. You guys have what the state is calling a viral video for Sydney now. Why Sydney? Why move here? Why bring your business here? It's about to reach 21,000 views and is definitely the talk of DED right now. So definitely getting some traction there. And I think Meta reached out to us and let us know that they're going to further our reach for our Facebook page because of that video. So hopefully we start to get eyes on it that have never seen it before. It's pretty significant considering I think our followers are somewhere in like the 2000s range. So we're definitely getting a lot of non-followers seeing Sydney right now. And then your creative district has managed to pull together all the funding for a stage so we can buy our own mobile stage and help with things like Downtown Sounds and other local events. And we're ready to hit the buy button on that. So now we're just working through a few logistical things and the grant money will get spent.
Adam? Kagan?
44 views, 18 of them with us, and you did earn a like, so.
Oh.
Dang.
Hanging on.
Tom?
The guys have been up around Sky Manor in the Blackfoot area, been underground, taking the overhead down off the houses. Hopefully we're trying to get Sky Manor, get that primary heated up so they can start cutting those houses over. Generation station, we're educationals and power tech, they're finishing up a few small items with the wiring. And we're just kind of waiting for the load to drop so we can shut that stuff down and hoping to be finished up in September or early October. And solar's going strong.
Josh?
Yeah, since we're looking at kind of rewording the ordinance 1876, I think it's worth looking into Alliance ordinance. They base their demand on that 50 kilowatt hour and quarterly basis. So if they're not hitting that more than once a month back order, that's kind of forgiven at that point. Then if you're not hitting it multiple quarters in a row once, then you're not getting put on that demand as well too. So if we're looking at different options in order to help some of our businesses, give them the opportunity to come off of that, I think that Alliance ordinance is really worth looking into. That's all I got.
I wonder if Mr. Kraske worked on theirs. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'll find out.
Status quo, sir.
Jeremy?
Well, thank you, Fox Theater and Price Cream, for taking initiative and doing all that extra paperwork to do those things. It makes the town look pretty when you're driving through. Sam, I want to thank you and your guys' crew for doing some hard work, I think. I think they're really stepping up. A lot of young people willing to risk their reputations, their kids, and everything else on the line. I think when you start taking some of the activity that this shows that you guys have. So thank you. It sounds like one of your officers got injured. How is that person?
She's doing well. She was sore for about 4 or 5 days. Unfortunately, had to get some x-rays and everything else, but I think the medication actually made her more sick than the actual injury. So yeah, she's doing good. Thanks for asking.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you guys. That's it for me.
Brett?
Oh, I just want to say that Downtown Sounds was off the hook. I actually made it. Didn't have a swim meet, so it was epic, big time.
Rob?
Yeah, again, Downtown Sounds was great. And remind everybody, fair started tonight. So go out and enjoy the stuff that's going on out at the fairgrounds. So, that's all I got.
And Downtown Sounds, that was a great event and everything for the community, and enjoy everything. We have to go into closed session or wait, I gotta make a motion. Do I have a motion to go into closed session?
I would make a motion, we go into closed session for the purpose of personnel.
I'll second that.
Who seconded?
Just
At 6:51. Oh, you even have to do those?
And also, that's all I'll need.
Everything you do.
That one.
Okay. What is-
Oh, did you guys vote? Did they vote? What you want?
Yeah, they did.